Should children be able to care for a pet alone? What do you think? Did you care for a pet alone when you were a child? How did that go for you? I'm Nicholeen Peck, and I teach all over the world about parenting, good communication, and how to have strong family bonds. And in this video, we're going to be talking about pet care and whether the children should be allowed to do that alone. So in this video, we're going to talk about why people usually end up in a circumstance where a child might be caring for a pet alone. And then we're going to talk about when it could be appropriate for a child to care for a pet alone and when not, and what parents should do as far as taking a role in pet care. So children come to their parents all the time. I bet it happens daily. And they say, "Mom, can I have a dog? Mom, can I have a cat?" Or whatever it happens to be. "Can I have a toad?" Whatever the pet is, they come and they ask their parents if they can have that pet. And the parent immediately says, "Ooh, that is one more person to feed and take care of and clean up after and all the things. And I don't know." And then the child says, "Please, please, please, Mom, I'll take care of it all myself." And then the parent says, "Really? You'll take care of that pet completely by yourself? You'll walk the dog every day because they need walking?" "Oh yes, Mom, I promise I will." The child's 8. And then every parent knows it's probably not going to happen. So the parent that says it's not going to happen, my 8-year-old is not going to do it, they say, "Nope, you can't have a pet because there's no way you're going to be able to do it alone." Or the parent who knows, yeah, well, the 8-year-old's not going to do it, but it might teach them some lessons the hard way. Sure, I'll let them do it and we'll let them fail and see what happens, right? Or maybe they just decide ahead of time, well, they say they're going to do it, but I know they're not. I'm going to just plan on helping them and not have an attitude about it. Those are pretty much your 3 options. Either you don't get the pet or you do get the pet. And then either way, how is mom or dad going to be thinking about that pet? So when the child is 8 years old, after a few weeks, the newness is going to wear off and the dog is not going to get walked all the time that it should. Or the cat box is not going to be cleaned as often as it should. Or when they do, they're going to take shortcuts. And all of those things that we know happen with children because they're just not in the mood to do the maintenance later, after the pet is not a new pet anymore. So what is a parent supposed to do about that? Do they let their child learn lessons the hard way? See the pet suffer? See the pet get hungry? Do they smell the smells that come from the pet? What do they do if the child chooses not to care for the pet? Or do they even let the child get a pet in the first place? When a child promises that they're going to care for the pet, what are they really saying? They're saying they intend on caring about that animal, that those are their intentions. But parents should never be naive enough to think that just because a young child says, "Oh, I promise I'll take care of that pet all by myself, you won't have to do anything," that the child is really going to be able to follow through, especially if the child is, say, 8 years old, 10 years old. It's probably not until the child hits about 14 and up that that child is really going to be able to be dependable about that pet. But then the parent runs into another problem with the pet. And that is that the pet is going to now outlive the existence of the child in their home. So then do they say, "Okay, well, you can take care of it yourself, but when you leave the house, you've got to take the pet." So the parent, either way, no matter the age of the child, has to plan on doing some of the pet care. Either because the child is too young to fully do it themselves and really feel that feeling of responsibility that they need to because they're too young, or because if they're old enough, sure, they may take care of it, but then they're going to leave the house and they're not going to be able to take it into a college dorm or wherever they happen to go next, and so then it's going to be on the parent again. So if your child wants a pet, then you need to think to yourself, do I want a pet? Do I want to take care of a pet? Now, obviously, there's the pros and cons of a child taking care of a pet. They can learn so many great lessons from doing pet care, and it is a very valuable experience. But if you are going to hate having the pet, and if you are going to have a bad attitude about the pet, and really not want to take care of it at all either, if you can't love the pet, then you might have to give the child a no answer anyway, just because, that pet at one point or another is going to need to have a bond with you and is going to need to be cared for by you as well. So we're going to talk about which pets might be better for you than others, as well as how to make a plan for pet care with your children that might work better than not having a plan. And hopefully those will help you. But before I do, click the subscribe button now. That subscribe button helps you see more of these videos, and they're helpful. And that's the whole point of this channel, so subscribe now. So there might be some pets that you might like or that you could handle better than others. A child might come to you and say, can I have a dog? Those need to be walked all the time, every day, right? They've got to go outside to go to the bathroom. There's all kinds of training that has to happen when it comes to a dog or a horse or, some of those bigger animals. And so, but maybe you might say, well, cats do a little bit better job taking care of themselves. Oh, but they ruin furniture, so maybe that's not great. But there could be something like a lizard or a hamster that stays in a case that might be easy. They eat out of a bottle or something. They don't eat very often because maybe they only swallow like one mouse like a month or something like that. I don't know if that's even a thing a month, but I know that for sometimes it's like a week, like a snake eats like one thing a week or something like that. So that would be a lot easier. And then there is the favorite for most people, which are things like fish and maybe honeybees. You keep the honeybees outside and you go visit them once in a while, maybe even only a couple of times a year, and you see them flit from flower to flower in your yard, and that's it. And then you get the honey and all is good. Or fish that swim around and you just sprinkle stuff in every so often, and they're easy to take to people to care for, especially if you just have a little fish bowl. So it's simple. Because that's the other thing with a pet is the care. Who's going to take care of it when you're not there? Then you have to get someone to watch over it. And there's, agencies that take care of that kind of thing, but that's just another thing that you have to deal with if you're a traveling family. And I know we struggled with that a little bit because we were a family that liked to go on lots of trips and vacations, and we didn't want our cat and our dog to always be in a kennel. And so we had to try to figure out what to do about that. And that was actually a factor for after our cat, dog, and toad were all no longer our pets because of passing away or whatever, we realized that we needed to not have pets anymore as a family. That was just a thing. Even though, we kept two of them, the cat and the dog, until they passed away. The toad we released back into the wild because we caught it from the wild, so we felt that was fine. Anyway, so there you go. But pick your pets carefully because some take more work than others. So let's talk about a plan for pet care and the process that you might want to go through with your children as you're preparing to take care of a pet with them. So maybe you could help them come up with a schedule that the pet is going to be on. So you're going to have a parent counseling session with them about the pet before you even get the pet there. You're going to talk about all of the needs that the pet is going to have, from baths and naps and food and exercise, all those things that an animal needs, to just the love and attention and having someone talking to them. You'll go the whole spectrum of the needs of an animal, of a living creature, and who is going to provide these needs. And then say, now I know that for you to do it all yourself and to still be at school all day, that'd be pretty hard, wouldn't it? Oh, good point. I go to school, I go places. Who's going to take care of the animal when I'm not at school? So you have to bring that up and say, so I would probably be helping you a little bit during school, but I think that for nighttime, for when it's time for the pet to go to bed or to eat its nighttime meal or whatever it is, that I think, maybe that would be a good time for you to always be in charge of the pet. So maybe you plan a schedule where they know their specific time and that's an instruction with them. You might also say to them that you will walk them during the day on the weekdays when you go out for your exercising, but on the weekends they need to walk the pet. Or maybe you'll come walking with them with the pet. So those are the types of things that you might need to adjust to let them know you really will be supportive of them with the pet, even though it's their primary responsibility. You're there for backup and support. I think you're also going to want to plan say, if you don't feed the pet, I'm going to have to feed the pet because it's not fair to the pet to starve. And I'm not willing to do that to the animal. But if you don't feed the pet, then this is how we're going to handle it. So basically saying you feeding the pet in the evening is an instruction. If you don't feed the pet in the evening, then that's not following instructions. And so then we will need to do a correction for you not following instructions. And then you'll get the opportunity to earn an extra chore, as well as to do something else for the pet that needs to be done, or something like that. So you need to make sure that the child understands ahead of time exactly what is expected of them before you bring the pet even in, and that you make that schedule, maybe even have them sign a little thing that says, yes, I'm going to keep this schedule. And then weekly, if you're having meetings with your children about their goals and the things they're involved in, you check up with them on how they're doing with their pet care and see if you need to alter or adjust anything. So I teach self-government. Self-government is when you understand the cause and effect of situations, and then you say, okay, now what do I need to know about myself so that I can get the proper results that I want for myself, and how do those affect other people around me? Well, this is definitely a self-government thing to do, to make a plan to care for a pet, and then to say, okay, what do I need to do to make sure that I follow through with this? And I'm going to check up with somebody regularly so that we can make adjustments. There's going to be negative consequences and corrections that need to happen if I don't do it. These are all things that the meetings and the corrections, these are things that I teach in my Teaching Self-Government parenting course. It's called the TSG parenting course. So you can hear about that at teachingselfgovernment.com. If you want to go to that site and click the shop tab or the store tab, it might be store tab, then you'll be able to see there's courses, there's books. You can learn about the things that I teach at teachingselfgovernment.com. So there's a lot more there that you can utilize in your discussions and planning about the pet, but also just in regular life. So go to teachingselfgovernment.com today and find out more about the skills of self-government that could help you and your family.